6:01, Wednesday, July 19th. First, I'm going to ask Kate. Kate, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you have something you needed to say, or I wasn't expecting you?
I was curious about the second item on your agenda, and I also just wanted to be here if you had any questions about the CR. So I don't really have a speech other than I'm hoping that people can meet on Monday before the select board, if that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, if it's ready, can you make it to the 6 o'clock before the select board meeting?
When?
Monday. This is if she has the CR ready, if they've approved it at EOA,
Sure.
but then we need signatures, so it would be like coming and signing and going home.
Oh, yeah. I would assume so. Yeah.
Okay. The Chapin
Great.
Road one tonight is just looking at issues with the lot itself in front.
Right.
So
Okay.
it doesn't pertain to the part in the back.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
We don't have any minutes, right?
Yes,
Yes, we do.
it's in your folder.
How you doing?
Any changes, additions, comments? I should note that I got an email late this afternoon from Mr. K, starts with a K. And he said he hadn't gotten the papers yet.
Well, he did get them certified mail and I attached the green cardboard thing to his file, so I can,
Okay,
I'll talk to him tomorrow.
the email's probably sitting in the box because it was just it was. But I wrote back that I thought it was sent out on the team.
It was sent the day after the meeting. Oh, no, it wasn't.
When you
That's the
came
one
back
that,
from holiday.
that's what, yeah.
Yeah,
when I
so it was
came
on
back.
that Monday.
Right.
Okay. Any changes, comments?
No.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes as read?
Aye.
I should say that was unanimous, so I'm not gonna do a roll call thing. All right. It's that one from over there. All right, I guess we will take up, what is that one?
I have just logged into the Zoom on my
Oh,
phone.
it's
to see if I can
Louis,
hear
it's
it.
your birthday. Okay,
I wanna-
Lexi Chapin, you wanna come on up?
They're not, oh, they're not here?
No, they're not here.
He's on
He's on there,
He's
okay,
on Zoom.
sorry,
No, that's what I want to hear is him.
okay. Is there anything you'd like to say ahead of us starting, otherwise? Al?
Hello.
There we go.
Hello. Here. Okay.
Is there something you wanted to, do you wanna make a comment before we start?
This is for lot 2 on Chapin Road. The wetlands were actually flagged some time ago by Heather when we were doing lot 1 on Chapin Road. And last week I was out there with 2 members of the commission, and they inspected all of the wetland flagging. They inspected the silt fence that's already been installed. And this lot is subject to natural heritage endangered species regulations. So we went through that program, and they had us, they already have given us a limit of work line. And the limit of work line already has monumentation on it, and the limit of work line at the closest point to the wetlands is 25 feet away. And then from there, it gets even further and further away from the wetlands. And why we filed the determination of applicability is since we've already got a limit of work line, we're hoping that we can avoid having to file an NOI and have the commission determine that the work described in the request is within the buffer zone, but that it will not alter any area subject to protection under the act, and therefore said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent.
Okay, there are extra maps if you want. Bonnie has 2 or 3 of these.
I think I have that. I have one.
So you can see a little closer up. And then we have suggested conditions.
The only concern I had is that the I have the region. Don't have them. My only concern was the part of the picture that was in the 100. It wasn't the whole thing. No, part of that.
I should, we started by, noting that this is 2 Chapin Road, parcel 14-010-002. And it has an NHESP file number, Hampden 18-37995. Yeah, the first thing to notice is what Ted was noting there. It is true that the limit of work is 25 feet from the wetlands themselves. It is, however, the entire septic system is in the 100-foot. So that's what you're essentially by the limit of work as the wetlands line.
I'm having a little trouble hearing, but I think someone mentioned something about the septic system.
Yes, I said this, the septic system is 25 feet from the wetlands, but the whole septic system is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yes, and the actual, the closest, at the closest point, the septic system is 80 feet from the wetlands, which on the commission has already approved lot 2 Chapin Road, and on just for comparison on that one, the septic system was quite a bit closer. The septic system was 50 feet away from the wetland.
I think he meant lot 1.
So we're gonna go with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have passed around to everybody here a list of suggestions of conditions. One is because this line is already essentially in wetland territory, instead of asking for our normal 50-foot space between boundary markers, we would like to get a 25-foot
Certainly.
spacing. So along that limit of work line, which we're accepting as a wetlands line essentially, to have the permanent boundary markers every 25 feet.
Perfect.
And of course, we've included commentary that all the CMP, the management program rules get followed, which is
Yes.
obvious. And then the rest of the conditions just have to do with barriers and cognitive changes and things like that. Probably the other most important one is that any open soil, any piles of soil during the construction that last overnight, they have to be covered and they have to be surrounded by like a wattle so that with these big storms we're having, you won't get any sediment running out.
I missed that part. Surrounded by, what should it be?
Wattles or other.
Oh, water.
barriers.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
We've had a lot of trouble lately with water going under silt fences and taking the silt with it. So we're taking some extra precautions with all our projects lately to make sure they stay in one place. Anything else?
No, I'm scrolling down through your stuff here.
The rest of the rules are essentially the same ones you had for the other parcels.
Okay.
Any comments?
No.
Randy?
No.
I'll go quickly.
Yep.
Okay, I'll wait. Oh, I had another question on your application. You didn't circle the determinations you wanted: area, jurisdictional boundaries, activities, area for activities under municipal law, or local alternatives. I presume you wanted C and D, which is the activities subject to regulations.
Yes, please.
In the motion? Yes. Why? So I. Yeah. Yes. That's his request. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I thought you guys were still. All right, I'm agreed. What do you want to do?
Determination. And after that, then just.
Agreed. All right, for Bedrock Financial. For determination of equitability, we're doing a negative determination. Number 3, that the work described in the request, including the buffer zone as designed in the regulation, but will not alter an area subject to protection in the act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent, subject to the conditions as attached.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That was unanimous.
Yes, the conditions.
All
Okay.
So we have two copies, right?
Yes,
Yes.
so I'm going to, bring them around now so people can sign.
I'm sorry? I'm assuming.
So you're all set, and we'll, send these out tomorrow morning.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
What was that? Before that?
I have some pens here and I can.
All right, I will close the hearing. Next, we will open the hearing for 37 Allen Street. You can also remember you can talk if you want to. Great, could you switch over and then
Somewhere, I don't know, doesn't really matter. I thought you went to Quebec. I thought you went to Quebec.
I'm getting off.
You look like you went to Caribbean.
Turn your mic on. Your mic, when you're ready. Yeah.
At the bottom of the button. Yep. But Judy?
Yes.
My name is Pete Levesque. I'm a wetland consultant from East Long Meadow, Mass. And I'm here tonight representing Dave and Lisa Chapelain, also in East Long Meadow, on 37 Allen Street. Filing an ANRAD, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. And it is in response to a letter that the commission sent to the Chapelains on dated April 10th, in which there was tree cutting at the site. And I believe the intent of the ANRAD is to determine if the tree cutting occurred within jurisdictional areas. So the site itself, you've probably all seen it. It's 37 Allen Street. It consists of 4.5 acres. The house, as indicated on the map, is up along Allen Street. Then it's an odd shaped lot that goes easterly. The back of the property east side, and the wetland is actually off-site. It's on a property on Commercial Drive. Norm Bernberg's company there, and it's at the back of his property. But the buffer zone does extend onto the Chapelain's property, and so it has it's improved with a house and a detached garage. And I think you know, to the north is a residential property up here. To the south, Mountain View Restaurant, west Allen Street, and east properties backed up to commercial. commercial drive. So the resource areas on the property are bordering vegetated wetland, the Mass Wetland Protection Act. And there's also a very small isolated wetland right up in the very corner, and about 1,410 square feet. And other than that, there were no other wetlands on there. It's not in the floodplain. It's not within Mass Natural Heritage Endangered Species polygon, although there is a polygon that comes close to it up in this corner. And so what we did is delineate the wetlands, and we used the standard Mass DEP protocol, DEP delineation manual, the Army Corps of Engineers manual. You kind of use them all together, and then there's the New England's hydric soil manual. And you know, we look for 50% or more hydrophytic vegetation, and then where there's a change in slope, and then also where hydric soils are and are not. So this particular delineation was probably one of the simplest ones I've done in 4 years. And whoever was out there, you can see why. Yeah. The wetland itself is in a gravel pit, an old borrow pit that the Christensen brothers dug out in the 50s. So what they did is they hugged out all the gravel and sand right down to the water table, and they hauled all the gravel out. But some of the spoils from the digging the pit, they piled up along the rim or the edge of the pit, and you probably saw that berm out there where we went up to the site. So it's super simple to delineate. You know, it's just a very abrupt and distinct change in slope, as they would say in the regulations. So we flagged it along that line, but I also did some soil borings just to confirm, just to see what was out there. And, you know, they correlated well. So the soil borings on the upland side were on top of the bank, which is like 10 feet tall. So obviously they're upland, you know, and the ones at the bottom down in the swamp. And the same with the isolated wetland as well. So, after doing this, we just briefly looked at the impact to the site, and obviously it's clear cut. You know, it's a no-brainer there. But I noticed one thing I was surprised at, that the white pine, it's all white pine that they took out of there. It's all white pine. They left red oaks, white oaks, and maples, and a couple hickories as well. And so up in the 100-foot buffer zone, well, this whole part is cleared, but in the 100-foot buffer zone, and I don't know why, I never talked to the tree cutter, they took the white pines out, but they left the red maples, you know, the white oaks and the red oaks. And in one part, there's they took out a couple of white pines, and there's a red maple and an oak right next to it, and they're in perfect condition. So
Well, that's good.
anyway, so what it looks like now, for those of you that went out there, I mean, it's like 70% covered now with all the rain we've had over the last month. You know, they're very fortunate, propagated like crazy. And I counted 7 different tree species coming up in the buffer zone, and identified 14 plant species in the buffer zone coming up. There's more plants, but I don't know all of the.
A lot of poison ivy.
I know all the wetland ones, but not all the other.
A lot of poison ivy.
Do you think there's going to be any issues? It sounds like they left enough trees. There shouldn't be a lot of issues with invasives taking over the space.
I don't think so. I did see some bittersweet out there, but that's the only invasive I saw, you know. I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of white pines coming up. I saw field bush here. Our trees. I saw white oaks, white pine, red oaks, red maple, black cherry, hickory, and some buckthorn. Now, buckthorn, some people consider that invasive, but
Yeah, it's on a no-no list.
Could be. And then for vegetation, there was just a ton of it: starflower, Canada May, groundnut, briars, milkweed, poison ivy.
Sounds nice.
Bittersweet, Virginia creeper, dewberry, ragweed, narrow leaf goldenrod. So, and then there's some slash in there as well that they had left behind that I noticed. So,
Hmm.
the commission would be considering some type of restoration plan. Perhaps if we could discuss a little bit of it here, I could.
Well,
in the right direction.
my sense of it is, and you can comment if you have other feelings about it, is that if there are things like red oaks and other sorts of things that are gonna grow relatively fast in there, I don't see the point in digging it up and putting it in, it will restore itself.
I think it's-
Well, I would encourage, removing all the invasives that you
Yeah.
can find, the bittersweet particular is
Yeah, that was great.
is awful, and the buckthorn.
I agree with you, because by bringing equipment in there, it's just going to destroy what's growing. there.
Yeah, I
But
tend to,
one thing, I don't know, you remember, I know Bonnie was. Remember when, Tall Pines,
Yes,
that project? So over there for, restoration, we took the slash that was there, branches and stuff, and created wildlife habitat piles. So they were like 3 feet high, about 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, and you just pile it up. Eventually it compresses, but it gives the habitat
yeah,
cover,
that's nice,
you know?
there's a little bit of cover.
I would recommend that.
Mm.
And then it's just hand laboring.
Yeah.
They'll get a couple guys in there.
Couple things I mentioned when I was there is that he leaves the stumps that the trees is cut, he leaves the stumps in the buffer.
Right.
What you do on the rest of it.
So no more
Leave
trucks.
the stumps there, let them black out. And the slack, yeah, maybe stack some up, but maybe leave some there until it's really stabilized, let it be a stabilizer.
Oh, yeah,
You know, don't pick up everything, you let some of it sit and leave it out to stabilize it.
Within the 25 foot, there was nothing cut, it's just that.
But I'm talking between the 25 and the 100 in that area where it's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was very little, even slash in the 25, but there was some, I took one picture that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was
so if
slash.
it was made into habitat piles, that
One
would
of the
be
pictures,
fine.
so
Okay.
you can see two of your markers, and there's a couple big lanes in there, but.
Do you think, that we need to ask for boundary
Yeah,
markers? Is it
that was
working?
my next point. I would like to see a couple at least a few boundary lines here, because you know what's happened 20 years from now. They're gonna say,
Same
"Why?"
thing again.
On 25.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we should have it on the 100 in this case,
Yeah, I think so too.
on the 100 in this case,
Say on the
because I
100.
know he wants to put a couple buildings.
Well, that was the original plan. You wanted to do a barn. or
Yeah.
something.
He's a woodworker, and so
So if the markers are there, then that'll obviate him having to deal with it again. I think,
Mines,
so.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have a thing that
Use
Bonnie
lolly
can give you.
columns, so-
Yeah.
Lolly columns, or
Meld it
in fact,
there.
now we allow, PVC pipe if people prefer it. Black PVC that hardly shows. So some people like it better.
The other, because you can fight it with metal.
Yeah, I like the lolly columns
Well, we don't
myself.
want them too short either. We like,
No.
it's a little valley brown. Enough so if he's clearing with some kind of brush hog, if they're obvious, so he doesn't, we don't want him to ruin his plans, so they're high enough that whoever they're working can see them. Okay, and I would, my opinion, they would go at the 100-foot mark, not the 25.
Yeah,
Just 100 foot then.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
agree?
that's jurisdictional, so that'll.
yeah, every 50 feet at the 100-foot line,
At the two endpoints,
Oh, I'm sorry, every 100 feet?
every 50 feet.
50, okay.
his two endpoints of the property, and then
15 and 15.
And we asked that they be filled with concrete or capped so birds can't get stuck in them.
yeah, you know.
You want me to, revise the plan showing the bounds and then some likely places for habitat piles or
No, I think we trust you.
no? Okay. Sure, okay.
You're right in the middle of town. Everybody can see what.
Yeah.
That's why I'm laughing.
I don't think
That's how
you
the
can
whole
trigger.
thing started, but our
Oh,
fault.
yeah, I drove by there myself.
What we do ask for the markers, though, is that you get a GPS location for each one.
Yes, coordinate?
Yeah,
Put it on one of your plans.
Okay. And so just get this information to Bonnie, like the ordinance and that kind of stuff.
You can send her some.
you can handwrite it into a plan and give her the plan, or, some other way that it's
Okay,
just
yeah,
felt
I'll get in
into.
touch.
Okay, and I've written up the findings, for the BVW and the fact that there was a wetland, but it's even beneath our 1/4 acre.
1/8.
acre rule. So it's very small.
But if he, if he's kept out in the 100, then that's gonna be protected, as small as it is.
Yeah, I noticed it's right inside
If the
there.
frogs or turtles tend to use it.
It could be a mini vernal pool.
I did go out and look at it like 4 or 5 times during the, the season, because I was.
Yeah, you mentioned
Give her a hole, and it
you
was,
mentioned you didn't find any eggs,
no, I didn't.
but you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patty flies and
Yeah,
very shrimp, nothing.
okay, so. Yes, and
It's in the.
it's just right at the corner.
It's over in the. On my
Yeah.
map. Yeah,
It's right over there.
nothing on the
No.
property, nope. And then,
Here.
well, there's nothing in this area either, and that's an important area, Where do you think it was?
We looked at a map, put her out there, and then showed some natural heritage.
I don't think so. There was another issue about something, other. Well, see, I was trying to interpret this thing. Was this an elevation thing, or is this the actual, is that endangered species one?
Here's a copy.
Here.
On this
Here,
one?
this one shows the natural heritage. It's
Okay,
right
see,
there.
I didn't know what he meant by this one. That's why I was confused on this.
Oh, it's totally off the top.
It's totally off the property, but you can tell it's turned on because it shows up over there.
Okay.
So this must be just an elevation, that's what this is, it's showing elevation, even though. it's-
I printed this out today from Mass Mapper, so here's the property, because Dave Shapley mentioned that.
Yeah, that's where it shows.
And here's, yeah, okay,
Even though it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Protected.
Good.
Pass this down.
Let's put this in his file.
John and
You can put that one in your file too.
No, I didn't, but yeah.
So, since this was findings, I didn't write conditions on it. Did I write conditions on
where
it?
is the resource?
Oh, no, it's here. Where are they? I just want to make sure we get the boundary stuff written down. I don't see it.
Yeah, here you go. There's a couple pages there.
No, where's the conditions?
That those were your conditions.
No, these are just the findings.
I don't have it.
All right, I'm gonna type that up tomorrow for her and send it to her with the boundaries and the stacks. So that'll be in writing, she'll attach it. Just to make sure it's all in writing.
You could probably vote on that now with that stipulation.
Yes,
Get these signed.
There's wetlands there. and
You know, Dave Shapley. So, he's a good.
yeah,
It's up to you, but.
okay, I will, entertain a motion.
Probably.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, we have stuff, we have a finding.
But she wants to move.
We need to vote on the motion.
She didn't.
I thought I couldn't make a motion. Okay, make a motion that we accept the findings with the added conditions that there will be boundary markers along the 100-foot buffer zone edge at 50 feet apart and the end markers. It will be marked with lolly columns or PVC filled with concrete or with caps. And that the coordinates for those get entered on plans that are given to the admin. All those in favor?
Do we need any words about slash?
Oh, and we expect that habitat stacks will be built. Sorry. You said that? Two, three. The DEP file number is WE 1730237. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And tell them we really appreciate their quick response.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm in Portugal right now.
Wow.
When do you, think you'll get that other information?
What doesn't?
All right,
You know, why don't I just need one of those?
okay. I have two of these to sign also. But I won't send them out until, I get that info.
You said something about a couple buildings going in there. Wow. His plan right now is for a woodworking farm. But in the future, he could be putting a house. How many development? No, that's not for us. That'd be a plan.
He's not coming to us as the planning board. He's coming to us because there was clearing on the land that went into the buffer zone. And so we sent a notice saying, ooh, you went in the buffer zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What you
so
need-
that's planning board. You should, make
Yeah.
sure they know if you have concerns.
Keep an eye on what's going on with the planning board. He's gotta go to them. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have an extra map if you'd like one.
I know what it looks like. He's gonna take it.
Well, it shows the boundaries of the
Thank you
buffer
very
zone. All right. Are we signing this?
Yeah, you can start on this one.
Well. They think he can go for a variance and have a driveway, just leave it alongside the right of flat, you know? What the hell, we're doing common driveways all over the place.
I just put it in space.
The whole thing on, Structure Road where we're gonna put the solar in, is doing a common driveway for the houses. Yeah, one driveway, so you have your one, if you put entrance, right, four houses on common driveway. Yeah. It's up with the planning board and the. Oh, yeah.
You can copy it to the other one.
I will. While we're waiting for that, Todd Pelletier on Scantic Road, he sold his lot. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's about. We're on about the fourth owner of that.
the house he wants to build is too big for the lot.
He actually went through, complete redesign of the house. Because the problem is he couldn't get the septic in the back well. So he actually shoved the house back and put the septic in the front. And that's the last thing we accepted, but after he tried to make the house work, it sort of fell apart.
So anyway, he's been after this certificate of compliance. And, I finally brought it to the meeting, so all you have to do on the back of this is sign it as well. It's just, it's a certificate of compliance. Ted and, Tom, went onto the property, several years. Ago.
Yeah.
When was it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at least a couple of years. But we've
Yeah.
been there a couple times for different buildings.
Yeah,
And went back again after this, just to look at it again.
right.
I didn't go into far, but
Yeah, I didn't either, there's too much,
poison ivy.
poison ivy
All
and
kinds
stuff
of
like
other
that.
stuff.
And it's, you know, this time of year, it's totally blown up, but.
So, in any event, this was originally dated, February last year. I believe it's February 2022. But, yeah, February 16th, 2022, but, I don't know if it never got signed or if it got signed and lost. So this is a duplicate, just signed.
Even though.
He doesn't own it anymore.
Okay. He needs it for proof documentation and transfer.
Well, you know, what we did before on the other one was we wrote out very specifically what he hadn't done, so that was clear.
And that's attached to that.
Okay,
Okay, okay. We're doing-
yeah, because that's the important part, what things actually were done and what things actually weren't done under that order.
Now, this is chapter one.
This is chapter one.
So the mountain person isn't in.
She'll be here. I gave her, 6:45. I told her to be here.
Oh, okay. All right, well, there's a couple of other issues we have to talk about anyway. All right, we had, several complaints that we were dealing with. Before we get to that, Ted, would you like to say anything about the landfill visit from Mary Grover?
Oh, yeah, we got a call, 1 day's notice basically from DEP that they're going up to do a quote unquote surprise inspection of the landfill. And wanted someone to go along, and I went along just to see what was going on. They're, well along, if anybody doesn't go up there, they're well along on the steel structures and all the glasses there, they just haven't started installing. They pulled back in a couple of places. They were going to originally put glass in the circles. If you ever go up there and make the circles to the different points, they would put glass in the center. They've done away with that. They're giving bark at DEP and move it forward. He's complaining it's too restrictive. And I guess in the southwest corner, which is where Scantic and Crossroads kind of meet back up into the woods towards the landfill, they're backed off a little bit there to one of the stuff. But anyhow, the stormwater system is all set up. It runs to the east, so that it's actually almost aiming at what would be South London Road. And it's all installed and appeared to be working good from our point. We could see no runoff, but all the rain that we had to actually hit the straw wattles and the plastic soap had never gotten it. They've got what they've done is kind of what we saw on Allen Street. They dug a big trench that goes around on the downslope side, which is mostly east and southeast, and fill it with rap rock type stuff. And they've got a big drain, and they got some outfall that goes downslope toward the east. But from the outfall to the fill fence is probably 75 feet. And nothing, we could see no indication of whatever made it. Because it's been there a long time, some of the straw wattles are starting to show their age. They haven't been violated, but they're showing their age. So one of the things she said is to redo the straw wattles. This is the only place where straw wattles are along the whole perimeter, is just where the outflow area is. We walked into the woods, looked at some of the monuments. We looked on both sides of that whole area. of the silt fence to see if there's any, we couldn't find any violation. We then walked around toward the south side, heading toward the southwest side, which would be Standard and Crossroads. And if you know that at all, it drops quick if you ever walk that. And that was quite a hike. We did find some area up in the landfill area that standing water was discolored. And so what we believe is that the dump is leaching. And it's within their work area, but it's nothing they did. It's just old natural leaching. We walked down, took a long walk down, but then we found a lot of flow of the water along the silt fence. But nothing had been violated. I'll have to say they did well on the silt fence. It was well buried. So even though there was a lot of flow, you could see there was nothing on the other side until we got to the very bottom. And we did find where the water had gotten on the other side, but we couldn't find any soil. So the water that was leaching was dropping most of its mineral content and was basically some clean water, but there wasn't a lot of silt on it. We did find a few places where the tree branches falling had knocked down the silt fence. And they're going to repair that. That was on her orders to repair. We did then get all the way to the southwest corner where Session, that was Atlantic and Crossroads meet. And there is a tiny minuscule brook, 56 inches wide, that flows. That's a natural flow that's been there, and it's coming out of the landfill. And of course, you can tell it's polluted. But it was there before they ever started the work. It was there when they did, so it's been there. And that's one of the reasons the water district, if anybody was following the news, it's gotta be expanding and adding more houses. So there was a brook that flows right behind me. It did also flowed enough that it did violate the silt fencing for it. So they gotta repair that. Other than that, lots and lots and lots of invasive, way beyond what I, that was one of the, comments from AEP about the invasive, but
Yeah,
most of those are in areas that weren't touched by the construction. Now, if you go up in the construction zones, you did find some because it's spreading naturally.
yeah, she says within the limit of work.
Yeah.
So she said specifically, we're checking to see items that were identified, checking to see if there was an invasive species control plan, which as far as I know, there isn't, but I'll check the CMP to see if it's there.
But a lot of those invasive species are in the untouched area.
As long as it's within the limit of work, they're responsible.
They're responsible?
Yeah, so
Okay.
replacement of deteriorated straw wattles at the eastern end of the limit of work, downgrading of the stormwater basin outflow, repair of the erosion and sedimentation control barriers in numerous locations along the southeast limit of work of the site near the wetland line. Wetland line WC, I'm not sure what that means. Erosion control barriers were undercut, snapped, or damaged by trees in multiple locations. Stabilization of exposed soils throughout the site. And this was sent to Robert Keever, who's like the Amoresco guy, and he wrote back that he had immediately sent it to the civil contractor who will be remediating the problem ASAP. That was July 13th. I wrote him yesterday and said, we haven't received anything. No notes, no, we're working on it. No people seen working up there. So if they don't respond soon, I'll ask Bonnie to send them a letter and say, may put it on formal paper and make it a deal that he hasn't responded. Because it is important, that we make sure there's no soil, especially the part going down into people's backyards at Scantic. Any comments?
It's
The
solar.
solar.
It's a big solar field, and Yeah. Think about it. To go up on a Tuesday or Saturday. Yeah, on Tuesday or Saturday. So, well, you can actually go up there, well, it's open now, but I'm quite sure if you do. Well, if you go up and identify yourself, you can go up anyway. Or just.
But Saturday,
Park at the gate and walk.
yeah, you can just duck under the gate, it's pretty easy. But,
But that's.
it's officially open Tuesday and Saturday.
You've been there like when you were a kid.
Yeah.
and It's just, you would not believe,
Yeah, it's not the
It's-
same. I haven't been there.
all the trees are gone. Yeah,
A lot of tree cutting that, unfortunately.
almost right into Dick Hatch's, where he kept all his house on Bennett.
Yeah, they absolutely maximized what they could take out. And the only places we were able to limit was where there were wetlands in the corners, essentially. It's all natural heritage. They had to do, they have to do a lot of mitigation. They have a CMP, a management plan for the whole thing. And also, they set aside a tiny little piece of land that's adjacent to Minnehaha Mountain. It's against the river. It's just a little chunk that was never, it was vacant land that the town owned. And there's a strip behind the stream. If you go through, there's a strip behind the stream that's quite long. That's also been set aside as conserved land.
If you look at South Munson Road and Bennett Road, it kind of run, if you have to look overhead, they kind of run parallel. The dump is at the bottom. And the solar goes up, and then there's a strip of the people on South Munson, the people on Bennett don't quite touch. There's a piece of land, about a rectangle that
Yeah.
is gonna be protected.
So they got off pretty easy, I think, but there was a mitigation plan and some land set aside. And in fact, the Conservation Commission now holds the CRs for those, so we'll have a responsibility every few years to review those pieces of land.
A side note, they were surprised at the amount of boulders they found. You mentioned planting in soil stabilizers, but a lot of places they can't. There's so much rock in it, they can't. So they spread a lot of the boulders out, and they drop wood chips and stuff because you can't plant on a rock. So you can find places where it's green, where they planted, some kind of wild grasses in other areas where there's nothing, because there's nothing you can't plant. Yeah, I remember how rocky it was, and I lost it. Yeah, it's horrible. You got to be real careful, you don't twist your name on it.
So, another complaint we got, it's been the month for complaints, was at, 221 Allen Street and the lot next door that he owns. And,
This is
Came-
Bill Wilson,
came from 2 Allen Court,
really,
and they complained that he was cutting trees, looking at, the 219 and 221 orthos. It does look like, I'll pass these around. It does look like there's been some cutting that's been off his property towards this piece of property right here is, electric company land, National Grid. And if you look at 219 and 221, you can see that he's cut into that land. So I'll pass these around.
That big, thing here that,
you just
that's
grew
a
up.
good, it's part of
Yeah, I
the
didn't
substation.
go. I was running
If you
out.
guys point around, and they put the
Lot of stuff.
substation in, the national, part of national security agreement, is they had to do a major registration for this, restoration, I think the word out,
Yeah,
of that wetland,
There's only 2 of those.
because previous farmers had partly destroyed it, and part of their agreement to put in a substation, which is off picture, was to help restore that, and they actually did a pretty good job. Quite nice back then.
and
Go
that's
back there.
where they moved all the turtles to.
Yeah.
When they moved the turtles out of their building space, they moved them to this parcel.
Yeah, and you go,
So
if you go on back there, you can see blue herons and everything.
it's really quite nice.
Quite,
So, some people gave us advice that we should not interfere because the lawyer is now involved, and when you get involved with the lawyer, it gets hairy. So I just printed it up and wanna see what you think about it.
I guess my question is, other than the National Heritage Keep, the only wetlands is in the back of this primary parcel.
Right,
So is there any violation? Here's the wetland. It's right here.
the wetland is the marsh behind,
Right there. It's
yeah.
buffer to the mark.
We have not been getting a lot of help from National Heritage about tree cutting.
Yeah.
I mean, when Nick Turnbull was cutting out of season and everything, they just kind of said, huh.
Yeah, so other than
So-
that,
I think the only thing, the only other thing that we could do might be to notify National Grid that there
Yeah.
has been some intrusion there,
yeah,
and
is it on their property?
they should be on guard
Right.
to maybe put up a sign and say,
Yeah.
this is the work boundary. We could write them a letter of advisement.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do. I mean, I know these people. Cause they're losing the view, whatever.
Yeah,
But
okay, we'll send something to National Grid.
yeah, that's my question. Is there anything that's jurisdictional? Unless we can prove he's cutting that back corner. Yeah.
I sent everybody this map. Bill has a, right of way going, in from Allen, and then it cuts a corner right where his land is, and then he also connects with Allen Court, his
Right.
right of way.
Yep.
So,
And right in that corner of his right of way, right there, that's where that picture is.
mm,
With the big barn,
The barn thing.
it's pushing it way back in the corner.
Well, I can't tell, but it's in that area. Which piece of property it's on. Right.
Yeah,
Because the piece of property in between the house on Allen Place and his property is very narrow. If you look at.
Ah.
So it's hard to tell where the barn is.
It's,
you think it's right
it's
here.
behind, if you drive up down the street, you can see it behind this house, so it's in here somewhere.
Oh,
you
so it
can't
might be
tell.
in this part.
It might be, you
Okay,
can't tell.
You can't tell. It's
Mhm.
just like this thing we had today. Until you can get someone in there authorized, you can't tell whether it is. And we can't tell.
Hmm.
But if it's on his property and he's clearing that property and he's outside the wetland, then we don't have
But
jurisdiction.
If
of
he's
that
clearing a
natural
property, he's in natural heritage property, and he's supposed to get
heritage. Right,
approval before he does that.
does that, but that's the only thing. It's
So
not
that's,
violent.
that's the issue, the 2021 and 2019 ones. It looked to me like he was clearing property
And he probably
in
is.
those years.
For that part, but I don't think there's a wetland.
No, I think it's a natural heritage.
Yeah.
We could notify natural heritage as well as the National Grid if you wanted to.
cause everything else is cut out of natural heritage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
the
it's
other.
just that parcel.
so we could send them a note and say, we could send them the two maps there.
Mm.
Okay.
I'll try calling him. He used to be on the commission.
And see if he can tell you something.
Well, see if the letters come and look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just has something to say, that he's already talked to them or something.
Well, I know that he was clearing that parcel at one time. He's been doing it for years for his son to build a house on it. But I don't know.
But he still should take things. I mean, typically, if he sent a limit of work map to Natural Heritage, they'll send it back to him and say fixed. They just map it
Yeah,
out.
right.
Okay. Yeah, we need to follow through with this, with the complaint. Okay, and we need a volunteer to do teach training with Bonnie.
What?
fish tank, fish. the fish tank,
Microfiche?
The microfiche,
Oh, that's
the
on
documentation.
Monday?
Yeah.
What time? They never, I spoke to them today, they never gave me an email.
I don't have time right now.
Do you know the time?
I know,
Oh,
I know nothing.
It came in.
No, no.
Well, what they're doing is setting it up so that all of our files will be, copied and become, digital.
electronic, yeah.
But,
This
somebody's
is a-
gonna have to help do that, so they're trying to train.
Yeah, they're training all the clerks to take all of these files and to digitize.
But they strongly suggested that we send an additional,
Someone who-
Volunteer.
And I'm not sure if they're, you know, like, say the billing inspector and, some of the other departments, they have like one or two pieces of paper in each file. I mean, our files,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, it's not unusual to have 50 papers in a file. You know, I'm complaining, I should,
Yeah, so we're looking.
Well,
it seems like a waste of time.
It's not super realistic to go back further than a year, I think. You know,
think.
just try to get what-
So is it-
Or maybe
there's some
just
sort
do a
of,
couple of analyze themselves.
machine or something that's gonna
Yeah.
be used?
Yeah, it's a glorified scan,
Uh-huh,
and it's going out to the cloud, going out to a big massive data.
so there's only one for everybody to use.
Yes.
But it's portable, and it's not something we're gonna jump on and be doing 1,000 pages every day. It's something that's gonna slowly evolve, and we want someone else to run it.
Yeah, and they,
Have an idea.
one more. I mean, they don't realize, like, in a lot of the departments, that when I get in the morning, I am busy straight through. I mean, I never leave that cellar. So when am I gonna have time to do that? I don't know.
When I first saw this, I thought about it, so
Yeah,
I could, I guess.
they, well, as long as they pay you to do it.
I think
Sure.
it is, I mean, she's right, it's an
Well,
essentially
that's true,
interminable
too.
task because there's a lot of paper. We might just
Yeah.
decide we only want to copy the NOIs that go back,
Right.
you know.
No, Bob wants,
several
he
years
wants
or
the
something.
entire files, because the files are then going over to Thornton Burgess.
They
You
want
know-
all the files out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the, I'll stop because we have a guest speaker, but that's the other problem is, for instance, when we were doing Glendale Solar.
Yeah.
I had people coming into the office, you know, they have a file now with, starting with Gaudette, it's huge. And so I would set the files out on one of these tables, and they would work on the files all day, and I have an empty desk out in that room, and I just said, when you're done, just put the papers in the same order, but put them in the drawers of the desk. Now,
Yeah, okay.
if everything is online, what are you gonna do?
They're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
need another computer or something.
Right,
to
then
use.
the town's gonna have to get a
Right.
second computer for all the office, I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult.
I don't know.
So if you could find out if this is a paid thing for.
It would have to be,
I'll do it.
it would have to be a paid thing.
Sure.
I mean, who would in their right mind?
I mean, I can't do it every day,
I think it's a one afternoon training, like from 1 to
Yeah.
4 or something.
but actually coming in to help do it. You know, I
Yeah.
couldn't do it every day, but
Right.
No,
once a week or
yeah.
something.
Or if somebody else is
I'll
available.
bring that up to
If we
Bob.
got an intern, you might be able to train an intern and then let the intern.
I was gonna say, some sort of training. Yeah, well,
Show us and then.
Yeah,
I'll train
yeah.
you sometime or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
The only other thing that I need to mention is, somebody else has been calling about dumping that they thought was going on behind one of the Fernwood lots. And we've spent a lot of the week trying to figure out where, and now we think maybe we know where. But we've asked the person complaining to, take pictures and identify more clearly on a map exactly where it's going on, because it's been very hard to identify. We thought it might be a site where they've been building a septic, but that was done a while ago. It wouldn't have been happening this week. It's all completed and
They
Straw
were,
and
this week I saw people spreading the wood
Straw.
chips all over the whole thing,
Mm.
whatever it is, yeah,
on the subject.
so it could have been that, but,
but,
so anyhow, we're waiting for that. And then our last thing tonight is we have,
Training. Training is Monday, the 24th, 9 to 12 for admin,
Mon-
then 1 to
Mon-
4 for end users.
There's more too. There's training on Tuesday, the 25th, 9 to 12 for end users, 1 to 4 for end users. The same on
Can you
Wednesday.
just send that out in a note to the commissioners?
Yeah, I can. That's what Bob Markle had sent out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
She said there's one for admins and there's one for end users.
And there's creating forms and a bunch of different things.
The creating forms one are here, they're like 4 days in a row. We're not doing that.
Yeah, I'll send this via
Forms
email.
at another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like 1 to 4 on several days. Pick your day, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one, the making forms one, is you have to attend all 4 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have someone here who wants to talk to us about Mountain.
Donna Durant.
Hi. I'm Donna Durant. I live at 104 Bennett Road. I've lived in this town, it'll be 15 years next year. And I think I have knotweed on my property. And I looked it up and because it's getting bigger and bigger. And then I started reading about it and it really started to scare me. So I thought, coming here, talking to you to see, you know, who the expert is, if we've got this. I mean, according to Google, it's rampant in the Northeast. And I just want to stop it before it takes over. I live on Bennett Road on, at 104. I have a brook that goes 3/4 of the way around my property.
Mm.
And well, that's the one that I'm working on, this Hampden and East Long Meadow infrastructure, the
Yeah.
culvert.
Yes. I got pictures of that flooding over from 205? 2005.
Oh, probably.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
got pictures when it was flooding over.
Well, the reason why my property is getting flooded now, and I have that gazebo that's near the street on Bennett Road, right before that bad curve. My gazebo is right over my well. And when the superintendent of highways reconfigured that curve, he put a berm in front of my property with a notch in it that lets the water from up the street come onto my property. And it's, you know, it's saturating my well, you know, pretty soon it'll be up to my well, especially in the winter time. If the ground is frozen, the water can, you know, seep in. And, so that's what I'm working on now, but now I've got, especially with all this rain and humidity, this knotweed is just taking over and it's overwhelming me. I'm up at night thinking about it.
It is kind of scary when you first find out about knotweed because you see it everywhere. Once you start to see it, you see it
Right.
everywhere
and I
you
did
drive.
see it on the street, and, you know, especially with the brook, I didn't want to use, you know, they say you gotta use, insecticide or glyphosate for 3 to 5 years. I don't want to use chemicals. My husband died 7 years ago from myeloma, from being with chemicals.
Yeah.
So then I was researching that there's a professor at UMass that is studying with aphids that come in and attack the sap. That was one thing I found out. There's also something called fruit rate. It's a machine that someone in England created, and it's like a compressor on wheels. And it electrocutes the plant. It boils the knotweed from the root up, and then it just decomposes. I've got pictures on my iPad if you want to see how it works. But it would be perfect, you know, in an area that you can't use chemicals. It's knotweed, from what I understand.
Is it commercially available though yet, or is he just?
Well, you know, I could only find it in the UK, you know, all the articles, but they do have distributors. There's farmers that use it they have big machines that electrocute any weeds, like in the aisles of their corn rows. And so I thought that this would be great if someone could look into it. It's, you know, it's called, and then there's an article from Oregon State about could weeds be controlled by zapping them? So I can leave this stuff with you guys if you want to look at it. I do have a video on the knotweed, and the, you know, destruction of it, but I figure Hampden has so much water, you know, and waterways in the town. And as I said, I don't, and the rootway seems like it would be a faster system anyway. Cause I heard that you have to dig it up, you have to dispose of it, you know, in a landfill. You know, you can't just throw in the woods because then it'll just start someplace else. How much knotweed do we have in this town?
A lot. We do. There are places, well, it used to go all the way from Laughing Brook up Mountain Road, for instance.
Well, see, my brook runs
on the
in-
side
My
there.
brook runs into Laughing Brook.
Yeah, and
So
some of that
across
has
the road By
been,
Walter Black, where Walter Black family
Yeah.
lives, and down.
yes,
Glenview.
there are just places around where there's a lot of it. And
So-
if a root floats downstream, it grows another plant.
Yeah.
It also tends to come in when people bring in fill, when the highway department brings in gravel. We had a big case that they put it all along South Road and then we had to make them go back for years and pull the knotweed out of that stone. Because it was coming out, all along there. But it tends to come up anywhere that people bring in fill if it's not
And
super
the
clean.
birds spread it too.
The birds,
Because I
yeah.
know these wild turkeys, you know, that my neighbor.
Well, it
feeds.
doesn't have any seeds per se. It isn't like some
flowers.
things, but it mostly, it breaks off and
But it's,
falls into
you know, I
things.
read it can grow 30 feet high. You know, I won't even be able to see
Yeah.
my brook.
It doesn't
anymore.
usually grow 30 feet high. It usually grows 6 or 7 feet high at the highest, but it's big and it's billowy and it's pretty.
beautiful.
It has
I
big
think
flowers on top. Honeybee farmers grow it on purpose because it makes really tasty honey.
Oh, well,
But currently, as a person who follows these things all the time, the non-glyphosate advised method is to cut it in May, cut it in June, and cut it at the end of July, just as it's starting to flower. So you're catching it at the places where it's growing. And you have to do that for at least 3 years.
and that's one thing I heard, don't cut it, because when you cut it, it spreads more.
Yeah, they say that, and it's possible.
And
You certainly can't mow it. If you mow it, all it's gonna do is have thousands of little pieces that will all root. So it feels good, but it makes it thousands of times
because
worse.
I went out there today and I looked, one of the stalks is almost 3 inches wide.
Yeah, they're big.
And
What's
then-
it look like?
Oh,
It-
I'll show you.
It's like a bamboo.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it looks like bamboo.
Yeah.
It's a form of bamboo.
Yeah.
It's not really bamboo. It's called, people call it Japanese bamboo or
Show you if you want.
Japanese
I have
knotweed.
this.
Yeah, and
It's in my
it
back.
kind of has
Oh, I got
nodules.
all of it.
Did you?
Oh, I have it.
Right now, there's 2 ways that are advised to do it. One is to cut it and glyphosate it at a time when it's drying itself back down, so in the fall. So it'll suck it up.
I always
And-
had, oh yeah. I always had a lot of brush, you know, a lot of foliage, because I didn't want all grass. When we built the house, my husband built the house, I just wanted some
Right.
grass. So this is the Gothiers who are next door to me. And this is all the knotweed here. And then this is it here. It's beautiful for a border.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of it along the side of Mountain View. Before the chapter lanes cleared, it was over there. There was a whole, looked like a hedge.
I was gonna even invite you out.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen so much of it.
She's the expert.
But I mean, it's scaring me.
So it's a big broad leaf.
Yes.
It almost looks like a heart shape and it's about that big. It's big.
So
Go over to Mount View. I think there's still some there, all along that right-hand
some
side.
of the ones in my.
Next to the chapter
they're
lanes.
10 feet
There was
tall.
a hedge that was made of it.
And
Ah.
now-
It's very, 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 very difficult to get rid of.
Yes.
And-
Fast this week. Yeah.
I remember when it was on South, Mark cut it and, somebody.
Yes.
What it was.
Well, especially mowing it because it just,
Yeah.
every little shred hurts.
Oh.
So if you do cut it, you need to cut it by hand, put it in a black bag. So that it, you know, and take it to the truck, take it to the dump. Preferably leave the bag on your driveway for a couple of weeks so that it literally gets rotten, so that it can grow. But it is in England, it's illegal to sell property without telling people.
Really?
Because they've had issues of it going underground and coming up in people's basements and causing,
I wasn't told I had it.
houses to.
It's not near the house.
No, it's not illegal here, it's illegal in England,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of it, and there is, if you do Facebook, there's a knotweed group on Facebook.
Oh,
Where
right.
you can find all the latest methods and everything that everybody's tried. So far as I know, the two non-distributed methods are that cutting method and using glyphosate. We had a tiny little piece in our property and basically Eric dug it up about 8 times now. And when it gets to the bottom, glyphosate's the ones that are leaving.
What are you putting in?
Glyphosate, Younger,
Oh, oh.
and, which I don't use on my property, but he paints it on with a little brush. And now it hasn't come back, but it took like 8 times of treating. Just this one little.
Yeah. Got a whole, half an acre of it.
Yeah, it's, when you get to that size of it, it's almost impossible. It's Asian.
Asian?
But it was brought here because it's beautiful. Somebody brought it, put it in, I think in a horticulture museum, you know, or an arboretum type thing, and then it would stay.
Yeah, that's pretty.
They had it at, they had it at Shoe Gardens. It's everywhere. So if you got a half acre, until they invent aphids or something else that can do mass one.
Oh, no, they could be fine.
So what is it?
As long as they don't eat my flowers.
I want somebody, you know, if you know of a reputable company that's not gonna charge me thousands of dollars, I'm a widow and can't explain it. You know, the Audubon Society, maybe if, you know, with the Conservation Committee and the Audubon Society, you know, I mean, if it's coming out toward, Laughing Brook, that's another thing.
It's here everywhere.
Yeah.
It's literally everywhere.
But it's gonna take over all the waterways eventually,
Yep.
because it grows high enough where it blocks the shade.
If there was a reliable method of getting rid of it,
Yes.
if there was, there isn't.
Dies off.
It does die off in the winter, but if there was a reliable way of getting rid of it, I think we should advocate that and start trying to work on it, but other than that, you're down to the 3 cuts every year method, and glyphosate, those are the only 2 choices. And completely covering it, but it'll come up through asphalt.
Yeah, or it'll grow the foundation.
So that's that, there isn't a company we can call and say, you know, we'll pay you double to come and do it. There's nothing reliable to do. They will do stuff to make you feel better, but it will be the same thing you can do, which is cut it by hand and get rid of it. And try to take its
So we don't
energy.
have, like college kids that come in the summer that, you know,
I wish there was, I really do. It's because it's very disturbing. We have it, on some places on Mesa Mountain, not too many. Right now, most of our problem up there is bayberry, barberry, sorry.
you know, because I haven't even read about this being in town, like, hey, be on the lookout for this, if you see it, this is what to do.
Nope.
It's mostly because, yeah, it's mostly because there isn't, yeah, it's mostly because there isn't something to do that's reliably effective. You can cut it, if you cut it 3 times a year, and it will slow it down, and
No,
it doesn't help to put it on the
no,
leaves.
gotta go, and some people inject it with Roundup. like the-
Yeah, for a while they were saying that was the best method, was injecting. In fact, my son injected all of his in Vermont. They went around to every single stock and
Wow.
and shot it up.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It works marginally. It is a lot of work. And you have to hit it right when it's starting to retreat into the soil.
Right.
So right in the fall, you have to go around and do the, so what he did was the cutting and the injecting. So he cut it twice. And then in the fall, he injected it and cut it
And you have to bag it up.
and get rid of it.
in a
Yes.
safe
To
place
the dump.
so it doesn't grow on somebody else's property.
Yeah.
Like
You
yours.
put it in a black bag, you set it on your driveway until it gets essentially rotted, and then you take it to the dump.
Is that what you do?
Because you don't want it coming up through the dump, so you want it to be smushed first.
That's very-
It's scary stuff, it is, but those are the best methods right now that are available. And we are in touch with the UMass Extension all the time,
That's what I was
so
just gonna say.
if they decide there's a good method, believe me, we're gonna hear about it.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say, reach out to the Stockbridge School of Agriculture, Mass. They might have resources, I know they have that.
Well, this was the extension service I found online. This is from September 21. Then this is the problem, the project. This is about the bugs.
Yeah.
The, psyllid, that's what they're called.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, that this guy,
Psyllids, yes.
this guy, this doctor,
I haven't heard about those yet, which means they might not be very effective. Because usually I get all these flyers and everything all the time.
this doctor.
If it's effective, you hear about it. But there is an invasives group on Facebook, and there's also specifically a mountain group. So you can go there, and I'm not sure it helps much, the things that are available. Yeah, it's more like a support group. It's more like when people start to get freaked out, when they start driving down the road and realize that this huge back.
Yeah, maybe call him up or call them. If they have any results.
Keep us updated if you do find
Maybe
a
they'll
tried and true
be
method.
part of an experimental trial or something.
You know,
Right.
I'm right there off the grass. They don't have to trek into the woods,
Yeah.
even with the throughway.
You should call them up and offer your land. To do a test run.
Experiment, yeah.
Maybe the aphid guy will send you some aphids.
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe-
Usually those are highly restricted because they have to breed them and then they have to trap
Right.
them and everything.
Make sure they don't hurt others.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not, if from UMass Extension, they're not gonna be careless.
We'll find Japanese not being supported.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Facebook
bunch,
support.
so,
You are not alone.
yeah, so.
But I just thought, you know, instead of me going out there to hire somebody that might be a scam artist or something, I thought you guys might, considering we have it in town and.
I wish we could, well, it is a big deal, but it would cost us tens of thousands of dollars and probably not be very effective. That's the hard part. It's just very frustrating at this point. Now, with hemlock at Delgid, it was years and years that there was nothing to do. Now there are psyllids that they're putting on the hemlocks that are working really well. They're developing resistant varieties. So there's something to do there. So sometimes what seems hopeless in a few years turns less hopeless.
Well, I'm hoping that this machine comes over. They have.
Yeah.
Red, you
You
know.
know,
red-
you could ask them if they know anything about it, you know, if they recommend it. I haven't seen anything recommending it yet, coming out from all the landscaper classes and stuff, but I will keep an
Yeah,
eye out.
ask about the thermal treatment of.
Yeah, will do.
Because, you know, I think, like I said, I can't get out there and start cutting roots. of
Even if you
water.
did, wouldn't matter. It would just make you feel good, but it wouldn't get rid of it.
It won't.
Keep mowing it down.
Now, don't mow. Of all the things you can't do, don't mow. Because if you mow, you cut it into a lot of little pieces and every single little piece will root.
Oh, really?
Yes. And if any flies into the brook, it will float down the brook and it will establish another. So don't mow. If you cut by hand,
Dig it up.
you can dig it up.
If I dug
But
it
you
up,
could dig
now
down
I
10
take it
feet and
away.
not get it all.
Huh?
You can dig 10 feet and not get it all. The root goes very deep,
Oh, it does?
unless they're baby plants. Sometimes baby plants, you can get 3 feet down, and get them out. But if you've got a bunch there, that looks like a shrub.
My yard
It's
is like a
too-
jungle. If it's not
Yeah.
grass, it's
So,
jungle.
If I were you, I would cut it all by hand 3 times a year, that at least keeps it back, keeps it set. And then put it in bags.
Taking the mower and driving over it without the mower blade, but.
But then you're gonna,
Just brushing it all down.
you're likely to spread it to the rest of your yard.
Not with the mower blades on, but just driving over it.
Yeah, but don't you think little
No,
pieces will be
yeah.
stuck in your tires, you know? I mean, one of the ways
That's
it
true.
gets spread, it's like garlic mustard, you know, they mow someplace and then they go someplace else and they mow and there's little pieces. I think it isn't spread as bad by mowing as the garlic mustard is. But, yeah, cut it or cover it,
Cover it.
but covering it like with a huge black tarp. But so a few people insist that works, other people say, look, it goes through asphalt, the tarp
Yeah, it's
isn't
just gonna
gonna
go through the tarp.
affect it, so, it'll make you feel better for a while, but it probably won't get rid of it.
Well, just like cutting it by hand and making it feel better for a while. I'll just let it grow and let it go across the street. In 20 years, everybody's gonna have it in their yard.
Well, I hope not. I
Wow.
hope they come up with something before then.
Well, let me know, because you probably hear before I will.
I will post it on Facebook. I will send it out by the scribe. I'll get Ted to put it in the scribe.
Okay, no, but I haven't heard, I haven't seen anything about people in Hampton beware of this weed. If you see it, don't cut it, don't mow it. Announce the prevention and might slow it down a little bit. All right, everyone.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you. Yeah.
No, sorry,
A lot of people throw it away.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a very hard thing to find out there's something you can do almost nothing about. I mean, we can tell people it's there, but they'll get distressed and they'll cut it. Oh, no,
over in Europe, it evaluates your
Yeah,
house.
yeah. And they've been fighting it much longer than we have.
They have.
Don't think so.
Well, I hope I see it when I look at it.
Yeah.
Engineer something.
Yes.
Close to every household.
Yeah.
We can go to the moon
I don't feel like I should be advising, but I guess.
No, not advising it. You know, if it's,
Yeah.
Just seems like more-
yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, just think about it, but,
yeah. Because,
you know, maybe because it's so pretty, people aren't aware.
it's true. Okay. I can do that.
Thank you for coming in.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I'm
Wow.
sorry that we don't have I wish we had a magic answer, I really do. It's very disturbing.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
just trying not to get upset about it every day.
Well, I've been up for 2 weeks and I can't sleep because I know this
Yeah.
stuff is out there. Like I said, I didn't know I'd be at war with an invasive weed.
It's one of the worst ones, but there's others, there's the garlic mustard and there's a lantus all along the. Bittersweet's exceptionally bad this year, it's getting worse. Bittersweet, though, it's one of those things that you can pull it out, you can dig it out,
Yeah.
you can poison it, you can get rid of it, it's entirely possible to get rid of it. Even garlic mustard, you can eventually get rid of.
It must have worked with that.
Bittersweet has like little orange berries.
Maybe you could cut it down and put it in vases
Yes.
when they pick up.
Yeah, bury the little seeds all over the place.
Well, there's people that wanna buy knotweed
Yeah,
plants.
for sure.
Yeah, what the heck is the low lying plant that's multicolored leaves? A few of us neighbors got it and it's in the protected,
Camellia?
in the protected area behind us, it's all.
Yeah, it's a houtinnia.
I'm just gonna have people sign that now.
Hey,
That's one you can pull out.
Thank
If you pull out enough of it,
Thanks.
or you go to say that you can get rid of it. Thank you.
One other thing, I got notified by, Bob Marshall today, the Granby, Mass, Board of Selectmen has agreed with the Hampden Selectmen for a conservation agent.
Oh, they changed their mind.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, coming up at some point, they're gonna want a couple of us to sit on review committee. And I think you should, of all people, do the most knowledgeable.
What would this person do?
It's gonna basically replace these two. To be a professional.
Yeah, be a professional person that gets about $80,000, $90,000 a year. I think.
And they have to do stormwater also.
It's going to be one heck of a job, and it's going to be shared between two towns.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure how they're going to do all the things they'd like to do. Yeah,
You need a degree, in,
But
wetland science.
they would be the fallback for like writing the conditions or the findings. They would help you figure out what.
Go away.
I'm leaving in June. I've been on this
She's
for,
retired.
I've been on this for 18 years.
No, I'm going too.
Really, you too?
Yeah,
Oh, we're screwed.
that's why they're getting a professional, because and she's not much longer either.
Yeah.
We're all getting
So-
old. I'm 78. Yeah,
Isn't it amazing he trucks around and he
I'm
does?
getting tired.
Well,
So-
maybe the new agent could, copy all the files.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in your spare time.
Yeah.
The other thing that we are actively doing is hoping that we can get more
Right,
Conservation
sign.
Commission members.
Yeah.
And so,
It's an
that we can,
agreement.
like I want to go with
Sign
Bonnie
bond,
and speak to the
file.
select board about increasing our potential size right now is 7. But other towns have passed a bylaw that allows them to have 10 or 11, which gives you a lot more backup for
Right.
people. And Wilbraham
This is
has
your
even more than
time
that.
bond, then you
Oh,
file it.
yeah.
So that you've got a lot of people to share the load when somebody needs to go out and do a site visit. You've got more people to show up for forums. So that's the other kind of thing I think we want to work on.
They haven't called you back from your signature.
Oh, for month, I think Monday.
Besides doing this. I-
This isn't for, no, this is not for the CR. This is just for a continuance.
Oh, okay.
It's for a continuous.
I was at the senior center yesterday for like 6 or 7.
Yeah, we'll send an email about Monday
I'm getting a little
because
old.
we won't schedule it until she actually gets,
Yeah.
EEOA has to re-sign a new copy because our council made some changes. So if that happens, then she'll bring it to the select board Monday for their signatures, and we'll just slide in early and do our signatures.
Yeah. That's fine.
If
No,
not, we'll
this is
reschedule
for-
it out sometime.
Is Time Bond sent me an email saying they're sending in a request for determination on the project in town. I didn't want a special meeting, so I told them that they would have to come into our August, whatever it is.
But that's more than 21
Well,
days.
that's gonna be
so-
beyond the 21 days.
So we have to give them a
We have
continuation.
to send them an agreement for the extension of the.
Got
And I just wanted to do it now, so I'm not calling people next week and saying stuff,
Right.
trying to say, no.
No, we're just guessing. We think maybe the water project,
What?
the water project,
I think it's the
since
water.
it's tie and bond, it could be.
If you follow Facebook at all, people screaming about all these guys out doing surveying and.
Yeah.
It's
I saw that.
expansion of the expansion of the water project, and the pollution from the dump is starting so bad. They gotta do at least 10 more houses. Because their water's.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
7:30.
I think I made a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.